Hey, welcome back. So this week we're going to build a countertop. And it's going to look like granite or corian, but it's not going to be because that's too heavy. And this is Miss Kitty. Say hello to Miss Kitty. And excuse my messy shop. Miss Kitty lives in here. She goes in and outside, but weather's been so crappy, she's been in for a couple days, and she goes to the door when I open it and looks out and says, "Now wait." So she's been in. And when she's in and gets bored, she trashes my shop. So I gave up trying to keep it clean. It's just a mess, and it's going to be that way. Anyway, so the very first thing we got to do, the widest part of the countertop will be 25 inches wide. Actually 25 and a half. 25 and a half wide. So I'm going to rip this sheet of plywood, which is AC. It's nice sanded plywood on the other side. We're cutting it from the back. We're going to rip it at 25 and a half inches, which I already have marked. So that's how we start. Here we go. So I want a little bit of an overhang. This is the piece 25 and a half wide, laid onto the cabinets. And I want a little bit of an overhang, and I'm going to put a strip under that to make the countertop look thicker than it is. This is 5H AC plywood, and I got lots of support under it for where the sink cutouts and the stove cutouts are. So it'll be lighter than 3/4 and easier to get under the window trim and all that, but I want it to look thicker. So anyway, you'll see the strip I'm going to put on here. So I'm going to use the actual cabinets as a template. I got a piece of 3/4 pine scrap, and I'm just going to draw right on the bottom of the plywood. There's the countertop cut out. Alright, so there's the countertop, and I've got these little strips I was talking about cut, and they're going to go under there like that. And I'm going to glue them and nail them both, but I'm gonna have to keep my nails back away from the edge as much as I can, because I'm gonna router a bullnose on that plywood edge, and I'd rather not hit nails with my router bit. There's that front strip on, front and end. And after the glue dries good, I will belt sand that real good, get the plywood and that strip good and flush before I router it. There's the nails, and they'll be buried under a bunch of stuff, so stay tuned and see what. Okay, so we're back in the shop. Messy shop. Excuse the mess. And that's her fault. Anyway, I already sanded, belt sanded the edge here. And there were a few voids. There shouldn't be for what I paid for this plywood, but there was. And that's life. So anyway, I filled the voids with glue and the sawdust from sanding this edge. And I'm sure after I router it, it'll probably have a few more voids that I'll have to fill in with the magic potion. But we'll worry about that when we get there. So now we're going to router it. Alright. So now the magic happens. The very first thing we got to do is give this thing a coat of paint. And I should mention too, this can be done in gray, black, brown, pretty much any color that you see natural stone. I was going to do gray, but I'm getting so much gray in there, and there's going to be accent color. We're still deciding the accent color. No! Don't you dare. Don't you do it. I'm telling you, you'll be sorry. No. No, you're going to be sorry. No, I'm telling you. You're just looking for trouble, aren't you? Alright, that's fairly dry now. One little footprint, right there. That was just for her to say, ha-ha, I stepped on your countertop, ha-ha. But that's the only one. That'll work. So, there is some wood grain showing through, so I think I'm going to give it a second coat. I'm back! Alright, so the second coat's pretty well dry. There's a couple thicker spots that aren't quite, but used latex. That's Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Premium Latex Paint. Black semi-gloss. And believe it or not, this stone paint, I'll give you a better look at this. That is a Rust-Oleum stone paint made for like planters or flower pots, stuff like that. Most common use for it. And it is also latex, even though it's spray paint. So we're putting latex on latex, so it doesn't matter if it's cured 100%. So this is like step 2 of the magic. 2 out of 3, 4. We'll see. Okay, so that is the first coat of that. If you try to get it too heavy, it blows off what's there. So we're gonna, it says 15 minutes. So we're gonna wait 15 minutes and then I'm gonna give it another coat of that. So I'll be back here in a few minutes. Okay. I think that's pretty good, and I'm going to let it dry overnight. Now tomorrow, we're going to cover that in polyurethane. A lot of coats of it. Sand it in between. So, I'll see you in the morning. I'm going to go get a good night's sleep. I'm beat. See you then. How are you this morning? So, that dried all night long, and it's nice and rough. At this stage, that'll feel like 40 grit sandpaper. And not to worry, we're going to fix that. So we're going to stir up our urethane good. Don't ever shake this stuff. You put air bubbles in it if you shake it, and if you put the air bubbles in it, then it doesn't act like it should. Alright, so this will be the first coat of many. Getting this urethane on here. And there's no special secret to it or anything. Just get it rolled on. There's a little tip for you. We're going to be using this roller all day. At least 4 to 5 times. And you don't want to have to clean that out every time. So, throw it in a baggie, Ziploc baggie. That'll keep it soft for you for the next time. I'll see you in a couple of hours. I thought I'd show you this view so you can see, hopefully you can see just how rough that is. That's, I mean, it's like after I painted it, I threw sand on it. But that'll be gone here in a little bit. We're going to do the second coat pretty soon here. And after the second coat, you'll see what I do to make a big difference in it. Stick with me. Okay, it's been about 2 hours, and I did speed things up a little bit with a hair dryer, but it's good and dry. Not even tacky, but it is still very, very rough. So we'll do a second coat, and I will probably have to leave the second coat dry a full 3 hours, because after it we're going to sand. So I'll put this second coat on here, and then it's a waiting game. That's the way today's going to be. 5 minutes work, couple hours wait, 5 minutes work, couple hours wait. Same process with this one to get it on there. And you get some air bubbles in there because I'm using a roller instead of a brush. But the last thing I do is go back over it real lightly. And it kind of pops those air bubbles and smooths things out. And they'll settle out of it pretty much. It's not like you got to worry about making the surface rough with air bubbles. It's rough. But it won't be. You'll see. Alright. Well, it's been 4.5 hours since this went on, and it's pretty good. Now, what we're going to do is use a coarser sandpaper this time. I'm using an 80 grit. Why coarser now? Well, because now we have enough urethane on there that we can knock the high spots off without eating into the stone paint. So we're going to sand it with 80 grit. And you don't have to worry about going with the grain because the grain's way down there. We're just getting the high spots off the urethane that's on top of that stone paint. And again, be real careful on these edges that you don't eat through. So now after the third coat, you can start to visually see the difference in the roughness. And it's shinier than it will be because it's still wet. I mean, I just put that third coat on there. But it's starting to smooth out a good bit. And after this coat dries, we'll sand it again. And then we'll put a fourth coat on it. And then we'll wet sand it. And then probably put a coat of paste wax on it. We'll see what it looks like, if it needs a fifth coat. So now we just sit back and wait for it to dry. Takes forever. Okay, and then the last thing you do after you got a good coat on there with the roller is go back over with a good bristle brush, because that time or this time you don't want any bubbles in there, and you want it smoothed out nice. Good new clean brush shouldn't leave any brush marks. You're putting it on heavy enough, anything there is will settle out of it. Yeah, Miss Kitty just did that. This is the beginning of a huge winter storm they have predicted. We're supposed to get anywhere from 12 to 18, 20 inches of snow in the next 3 days. So we might be snowed in. But as soon as I can get out of here, I'm going to buy a sink and faucet and get that countertop on and the sink in. If I can ever get out of here again. Might be spring. Now, I think I'll let that just sit and dry overnight. That'll give it about 12 hours. And then tomorrow morning, we'll wet sand it with 800 or 1000 grit and paste wax it, and then we'll put it in a Gypsy Wagon. See you then. You have a good night. One other thing, I'm sure some have wondered it. Could I have just done epoxy on this? Absolutely. And it would have been better. Problem is, I don't have enough left. This is left over from a cedar strip canoe I built last year. I'm not sure it's even still good. It's a year old, and there wouldn't have been enough anyway. I didn't want to take a chance of getting a gooey mess on there that wouldn't set and run out before I had it coated well. So I didn't want to buy another quart of this. Is $50. I got the urethane on sale for $9. I'm a cheapskate, as I've said. And I've done both in the past. they don't really look any different. I think the epoxy probably holds up better. But this is going to have a cutout range top and a cutout sink, and then the refrigerator sitting on it. So there isn't going to be very much of this countertop that's even exposed. So I wasn't going to go to that expense. That's why. All right, I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. Well, it's been drying 14 hours now. We're going to wet sand it this morning. You can use either 800 or 1000 grit. I grabbed a piece of 800 that just happened to be right on top of the sandpaper drawer, so that's what we're going to use. That'll work. And it doesn't take much. We're just going to sort of top it off here a little bit. There's just water in here. Put a little water on there. And just scrub it around a little bit. And this really doesn't change the looks of it at all. What it does is change the feel of it. Now we'll dry it off. So now we're going to use some of this Minwax Paste Wax finishing compound stuff. It's basically like car wax. And we're going to wax the surface. Yeah, it just protects it from water. Beer. For someone to come around with beer sometime. Numerous other alcoholic beverages. And every now and then I'll wax it. Again, just to protect it. And we'll do about 1/4 of it. And then we'll buff that off. Now after that, there we go, all done and ready to put in. And I gave you a shot earlier to show you how rough it was. And I'll show you this, show you how smooth it is. It's got just a little texture on the surface, which is cool. There it is. Let's go put it in. There's the countertop.